What a great time to be a Giant, be a fan of the Giants.
Like, we have something going here. We're building something special, and, you know, you can see it from the outside and inside. It's even more beautiful.
Reflecting on everything that got me here, just to see that uniform, and, you know, I watched, that's the team I watched the most growing up because my dad was a Giants fan, so.
Once a Giant, always a Giant. For me, it's only a Giant.
Welcome, everybody, to another edition of All In with Art Stapleton, a New York Giants podcast brought to you by NorthJersey.com and The Record. I'm your host, Art Stapleton. We just finished up practice on Tuesday afternoon. A week from now, it will be cut day. All NFL teams must get their rosters from wherever they're at. Right now, the maximum is 90, down to 53. And then the process of a waiver wire that includes over 1,000 players that are currently available. That will be the case, and the personnel and scouting staffs of every team will go crazy, and you can check out my story on that and how the Giants are planning for that process on NorthJersey.com. That story posted. Brandon Brown, assistant general manager, kind of shared some insight yesterday, and it's a fascinating part of the game, and this year teams are allowed to go from 90 all the way to 53. Now, that's probably not going to happen. I would imagine some cuts are made going into the weekend and then coming out of the weekend on Sunday, Monday. Now, the Giants players will have off Sunday and Monday, so they'll come back to practice Tuesday of next week. So I would imagine there will be some cuts done on Monday. Allows your team to kind of focus and look at, you know, certain guys coming off. I think the Giants won't be as active as they were last year on the waiver wire when they put in 7 claims. They were actually awarded 4 claims. One of those claims is actually in line to start for them at safety, Jason Pinnock from the Jets. Jack Anderson was also claimed. I think he'll be a reserve lineman for this team, whether it's on the 53 or on the practice squad. Nick McLeod was also claimed. He was really a special teams stalwart and actually stepped up last year in the back end of the secondary, was really a valuable player. He's been banged up. From what I hear, he will be ready for week 1, so that'll be something to watch. And then Justin Lane, who was a corner through mid-October for the Giants. And if you remember correctly, the Giants had to play Justin Lane against Aaron Rodgers and the Packers in London. And they ended up obviously shutting it down defensively and beat Rodgers at the end of the game. And Lane was one of the 2 corners that was out there. I believe at the time, Adoree Jackson and Fabian Moreau were both hurt in that game. So you never know what comes from the waiver wire. But that'll be next week. This week, the Giants, they've kind of slowed down practice some. Not as many team periods, more cards periods in terms of, you know, scripting things from one side of the ball for future opponents, whether those opponents are this week in the Jets or they're focused on September 10th and the Cowboys. That's kind of what happens this time of year. Some highlights from practice. To me, the best play of practice, Adoree Jackson in the slot covering Darren Waller. It was great defense by Adoree. The ball was kind of punched up in the air, and I'd have to see video of it to truly appreciate what happened, whether it was Adoree or if Waller bobbled the ball. But as Waller and both players are falling down to the ground, Waller kind of tips the ball and then catches it fully as he hits the ground for a catch, hopped right up, signaled first down, so you knew he made the catch. It was a great play. Something was interesting, I thought, earlier in that setup, and that in one-on-ones, Darnay Holmes was lined up in the slot, and he was going to end up covering Waller. And that's when rookie Deonte Banks kind of bumped Holmes out of there and took that rep in one-on-ones. And I look at that one of two ways, actually two different ways. Number one, it says a lot about Banks to have the confidence to go against Waller, but also it kind of says where Holmes is at right now in the pecking order, that you would think that if the Giants are truly trying to get a look at Darnay in the slot, they would want to see that matchup with Waller. They did not see that matchup, and Waller beat Banks pretty good, as you would expect, but says something about the competitive nature of Banks wanting to get in there and go against Waller. On today's show, an interview with one of those guys that has really been under the radar this summer and has had one of the best summers of any player on the roster. That's second-year pro Jashaun Corbin, running back, special teamer, trying to make the team as a special teamer. Out of Florida State, was an undrafted rookie last year, spent most of the year on the practice squad. And, you know, it's funny, if things had worked out differently with Saquon Barkley and, you know, maybe if he wasn't at camp, I think we'd probably be talking about Jashaun Corbin a lot more. Obviously, there's a lot of headlines with Eric Gray, the rookie from Oklahoma, 5th-round pick, and Matt Breida is here. Sure seems entrenched to start the year as RB2. But Jashaun Corbin has been very impressive. He's been a very good runner in games, and I think if things were different, I think Corbin could play running back in this league. I really do. If he were the rookie, I think there would be a lot of people talking about Jashaun Corbin. So I hope you enjoy my interview with Jashaun, and then we'll come back to wrap up today's show and look ahead to what comes next this week. Without further ado, here's my interview with Jashaun Corbin. So, you know, I was thinking to myself, when you look at all the storylines this summer, you're one of the guys that's kind of been under the radar. I personally think you've had a great summer. What has it been like for you, and kind of the journey to prove yourself in year two?
It's been a kind of up and down journey. Just always me. I just try to stay consistent, no matter what position I'm in. I just try to stay consistent, show the coaches that I can play. Be a good teammate. And that's kind of my process of how I approach everything.
Now, when you go into the offseason, obviously last year you spent a lot of time around this team. You're in the locker room, you're in practice, but you don't feel like you made your stamp, I would imagine, on the roster, being on the practice squad.
Right.
What were you focused on coming into the offseason, and what did you want to come back with, for yourself?
Really, the biggest thing for me was trying to show my special teams value, because going from college, you're kind of a starter, so you don't really practice as much as special teams, and then when you come to the NFL, the special teams is a totally different ball game. So I kind of just took my practice squad year as a year to learn the offense and get better at special teams, and then this offseason kind of double down on doing better at special teams, and then obviously continue to expand my knowledge in the playbook. Let's
talk special teams a little bit. I asked Coach Dable, another an undrafted rookie this year is Bryce Ford Wheaton, and he's said the same thing to me after the game on Saturday night or Friday night. Look, I know when I came here, if I don't perform on specials, it's going to be very hard to make this team. Dable even said, these guys know, if you can't do it, you're probably not going to be here. I mean, that's the way you make your job security. So how do you go about not only learning special teams, but getting to the point where you could actually make an impact?
Yeah, luckily for me, being on scout team last year, it honestly taught me how to, play special teams the right way in the NFL. And then obviously, when you're on scout team, you're going against the top guys, the ones, every day. So just kind of using that as a learning curve for me. And like you said, special teams is a big factor in the league, and that's how you kind of stay around. And it's kind of how you make your niche on the team. So that's kind of been my emphasis this offseason.
Where on teams do you look at and see kind of a home for yourself, or where you've done the most work?
Pretty much everywhere T-Mac wants me to play, I try to excel in every position that I'm on. So wherever coach wants me, that's what I try to excel at and do my best.
Do you almost have to make it a mental process, the idea of course, you still see yourself as a running back and you think you can play in this league, but you know the situation. I mean, you almost have to take that running back hat off and then say, okay, this is how I'm going to be a football player and make this team?
Yeah, I think being a football player and not just a running, I think if you're just a running back, it kind of labels you as one thing, but when you're a good football player, you can go at running back, make plays, and you go on special teams and go out there and make a tackle. Just being a good football player, is what is going to keep you in the league.
Now, the last 2 weeks, I've seen you get opportunities as a running back that really you didn't have last year. And you look good doing it. Do you feel like it's there for you when you get those opportunities that you're kind of showing people, you know what, don't forget about me as a running back? Yeah,
for sure. I just, when I get in the backfield, I feel like that's what I do naturally. That's making plays, making guys miss, being explosive. That's kind of like what I do. So when I get back there, it's really no like I said, it's just natural to me. So I guess I feel good when I get back there and get the opportunities, and then just make the most of it.
Yeah, you had that one play on Friday night, and the sideline was pretty fired up when you kind of broke through the middle, and you had about it was like 25, 30-yard gain, showing a little wiggle. I mean, you're smiling now. I mean, is that kind of the Corbin that people have come to expect when you get those chances?
Yeah, for sure, and it definitely feels good, like after the game or the next day when everybody's like, all the older guys are like, yeah, man, like you balling, playing good. It's definitely a good feeling. And you just try to be consistent and make that a habit.
I'm sure you've been asked this question probably by people close to you, but also you've asked yourself this question: how does Jashaun Corbin make this team? How do you make an impact on this team? What is that answer right now, do you think, that after spending 3+ weeks here now in camp, and what do you think you have to do between now and next week to kind of show that you belong here?
Just keep making splash plays, whether it be on special teams, at running back, just being consistent, being good in pass pro, just doing all the little things, and then control what I can and let God handle the rest, and I just leave it at that.
Do you feel like, this is a kind of a crazy time, you know what it was like, you lived through it last year, the idea of being an undrafted guy, and then you have to get that phone call. Are you kind of anticipating what that's going to feel like again, or have you been able to kind of put that behind you and learn from last year's experience?
I definitely put it behind. I'm definitely more at at peace of not worrying about what's going to happen, and just living in the moment and handling my business day by day, and then whatever happens. I remember this time last year, it was always in the back of my mind because it was my first time going through it. But year two, you're kind of, I don't say you're used to it, but you're kind of just more, calm through all the craziness that's going around.
Give me a scouting report on Jashaun Corbin. What do you bring, do you think, to this offense?
I just see a person who's consistent, knows the playbook, is going to do the little things, who can pass, protect, catch the ball, run the ball, basically do everything that a 3-down back would need to do, as well as being a good football player, running down on kickoff, punt coverage, return, whatever I have to do, I can do that.
You have obviously two veterans in this backfield, headlined by number 26. What have you learned from watching Saquon, not only last year but also this year?
I learned a lot. It's just crazy, just being in the same room as somebody who so talented, and I don't know, me before I got to the NFL, I always watch Saquon and I just be like this dude's crazy. And then when you finally get in the room with him, you actually realize the work that he puts in, how smart he is. Same with Matt Breida. I just try to pick their minds with anything that I need to know, whether life or football, and I just try to pick their minds, and they do a good job of taking care of me. Is whatever I need to know, they're gonna help me with. So it's crazy.
Do you, when you swap out, when Saquon comes off and you go in for Saquon with the ones, is there a little special feeling for you to kind of know that you've made strides from last year to this year?
I mean, I wouldn't say it's a special feeling. It's just just going there and try not to let it drop off. Pick up right where he left off, and I just try to stay focused. And since I'm out there with the ones next to DJ, it's you really got to be on point. So I just try to not let it drop off and try to contribute when he comes out, do what I do when I get in.
part of you walk around here. I mean, I would imagine that you can't allow yourself to think what next week is going to bring and what's the week after that. But do you almost look at this, what they're building here, that this is where you want to be? I mean, look at that Giants on your chest and say, you know what, whatever I got to do, I want to be here.
For sure. This is a special place. Just New York Giants in general, it's just a special place, special team. From top to bottom, it's special. And the team that we have here, the bond is crazy. I tell my mom all the time, like, I love this team. It's just like a brotherhood. It's like, even if you're on a practice squad, if you're a new guy, like, everybody treats you the same. And then just obviously being next to, like, New York City, it's just a great place, top to bottom. So yeah, this is a place where I would love to be at.
So this has become home for you in such a short time.
Yeah, it's crazy. I love, especially where I'm from, it's small, kind of slow area. So this is a great change up, and just being around guys like Darren Waller, it's crazy. It's great though.
What about Waller?
He's a freak, but he's a good teammate as well. A guy who would help you with whatever you need. So it's great.
Last question. Do you feel like you've shown that you can play in this league?
I definitely feel like I can. I've shown that I can play in this league. It's just by the opportunities I get, I feel like I try to make the most of them. And then one day I'll get the opportunity to show, when it becomes real. So I think I can. Well, I know I can, and yeah.
Cool. Thanks. All right, thanks to Jashaun Corbin for joining me after practice. It's a definite mindset adjustment for guys who were star running backs in college. Corbin's no different. Was very good. Had some nice hype last year as an undrafted free agent, rookie. And it's a hard road to get to this level as an undrafted running back and make a team. And he spent this whole year with the last year, his whole rookie year, on the practice squad, was immersed in this team. And now he's got to view himself as a football player and not as a running back. He's got to make this team with what he does on special teams. Said that about Bryce Ford-Wheaton, an undrafted rookie wide receiver that everyone has talked about. I wrote about him in this week's rookie report. But I tell you what, Corbin has been impressive. He's a good receiver. And I think if the Giants are going to keep 4 running backs, which right now I only had them at 3, Corbin's got to steal someone's spot on the to avoid the practice squad by what he does on special teams. He's an outside gunner on kickoff coverage, and made some nice plays in practice today. But it'll be interesting to see how things work out. Rest of the week, we'll have interviews with Paris Campbell and Javarius Owens, rookie safety. You don't want to miss that one. Probably get that one out Wednesday morning. But appreciate Jashaun joining me. And reminder to everyone, subscribe to our newsletter, All In with the New York Giants. It's at northjersey.com/allin. You get a bunch of different stuff in our exclusive newsletter. It's free. All you need is an email address. So appreciate you tuning in today. Appreciate you listening. As always, we know you're all in. That's why we're all in. We'll talk to you tomorrow.